Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you might be on this wonderful spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Mekas, and today we have a very special guest. This is a very unique medicine woman combining ancient wisdom with modern science to inspire personal discovery and transformation. She teaches healing, mind, body, emotion, and spirit through introspective practices, transcendence, disciplines, herbalism, lifestyle and habit engineering, mindset training, perspective evolution, and personal and professional development. Her favorite disciplines include traditional sacred medicine practices as well as modern empowerment methods such as NLP, regression hypnosis, and subconscious and superconscious reprogramming techniques. I want to welcome the one, the only, Kat Rambo. Welcome, Kat. How are you?
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Paul Mekas. It's such a blessing, an honor, and a privilege to be here. Thank you for the glowing introduction. I'm very happy to spend this time with you on your awesome network. I love it. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. And I'm sure all our listeners are as well. So, Kat, we've known each other for a while, quite a few years. Man, what was that? That was a couple months. That was in December. Yeah, that was in December on the retreat. But that was the ability for me to be able to be there firsthand and experience your abilities with working with herbs, working with plants, working with natural medicine. And I found the entire retreat very, very, very intriguing and enlightening. And I'm sure everybody else that was there as well felt the same way. And so explain, how long have you been in this practice?
With the medicines that we worked with specifically, some years, but in the personal development sphere, I suppose one could say something like my whole life, right?
Yeah.
I feel like those programs like this, to be truly impactful, really have a few elements. One is the tools. That's the medicines, that's the shamanism, that's the spirituality. But that also includes the NLP, the language, the hypnosis, all of the things that we use to help empower ourselves in the process and then also thereafter. And it also is the container itself. So the process is designed specifically. There was so much before and so much after also, not just what was contained in the weekend, the long weekend, that creates a flow that produces the transformation that's lasting. You know, impactful experiences are awesome, but if they don't really make a difference for your life, then it's a cool notch on your bedpost, but so what? But we really aim to make permanent and lasting amazing changes in people's lives, and that requires so many moving parts beyond just the medicines themselves. But of course, this is a beloved tool that I love so much, and especially working the maestra. She's amazing with what she does. It's something else entirely.
Yeah. And I believe you would be referred to as a shaman.
So I get that question a lot. I use the title medicine woman or healer. What the maestra is a shaman. A maestra or a taita is like the doctor degree of shamanism. That's like the one who's titled to teach and train other shamans. So what a shaman is technically supposed to do, whether they use medicines, a drum, a rattle, or their own voice or whatever, the medicines are not what make a shaman at all. Anyone can serve someone a cup of tea, is this unique ability to move between different dimensions. Across the world, shamanism, and the word shaman actually doesn't come from this hemisphere, but shamanism as a practice is all over the world in almost every indigenous culture and tradition. And it's about a person who induces a sort of trance state in themselves and travels between this dimension and another. The idea is to cross to the spirit world, bring energy, information, healing, whatever, into this dimension, into this world, in order to create the desired outcome, which can be anything from a name change to an inspiration to a vision to a healing to whatever. So what I do is I work with medicines, but I also work a lot with the mind. Yes, I do see other dimensions. Yes, I do move a lot of energy. But, it doesn't matter how good of a doctor you are when a neurosurgeon walks in the room, you sit down and you shut up, right? And
Yeah.
then my other guy is something else entirely. She channels fully the entire process, and it is very clear that it is coming from other places entirely. And that's why the healings that she can create are so incredible,
Yeah.
So the word shaman has many definitions now. But that is what is a shaman that is supposed to technically be able to do, is be able to travel in and out of dimensions.
Okay. So you also work with spirit?
Sure, absolutely. So with some traditions are more about honoring a specific set of deities or spirits or energies or whatever,
Yeah.
elementals, whatever it is that you're into. Um, we believe that, especially in shamanic traditions, are very natural world oriented, right? Very much about the plant spirits and the plant dimension and like the elements of the air and the water, Um, but the work that we do is a lot more focused specifically on a single point focus on source energy from whence all comes. So everything else is a function or facet of that. And we work with whatever it is that shows up as a representation of unconditional love from source, whatever that
Yeah.
may be, which looks
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Um, now you mentioned you were working on some books and working on some publications out there. Um, what's the timeline?
Very good question. I love that. Well,
You're
I have
very
that
busy, so I'm
goal.
like, I mean, I'm busy too, and I've been trying to write a book, but it's like every time I want to
You get it.
put the pen down on the paper, it's like,
Yeah.
something else comes up.
So I've got two. There's a few things in the works, really, as far as books go, but the two that I really want to work on, one is about how to turn our weaknesses into our strengths. When I was young, I was given the alphabet soup of why I was never going to succeed. And in shamanic traditions, they're actually, the children are selected for what would be considered non-social normative behavior, for example, like exhibiting symptoms of schizophrenia, etc.
Yeah.
So we see mental health differently than these traditions and cultures do. And I've noticed that in my life, the things that were my weaknesses are actually beautiful gifts and my unique magic in my life. And so I really want to teach that. And so I'm writing about that. But the other book that I'm writing, which is the one that will come out first, because I'm actually already much further through that one, and it's been really easy and fun to write for me, actually, is the process of ceremony and why because shamanic traditions and sacred medicines are becoming so popular. We're revisiting these ideas and ancient life ways in a way that is just absolutely unprecedented. And what we fail to recognize often is that there is no modern cultural context for these practices. So,
Yeah.
for example, we want to go on a vision quest, but we don't even know how to interpret our dreams. Well, how do you know how to navigate a vision quest? We don't. So I teach this a lot, as you know, having gone through a
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
program. So the book is a lot about how to prepare for ceremony experience and then how to deal with the integration process of a ceremony experience. And this could be a sacred medicine ceremony. This could be a traumatic experience in your life. This could be an empowering experience in your life. It could be a big life change. It really doesn't matter. It's about transformation, but specifically the esoteric side, the visionary side, the diving within side, the altered states of consciousness, all that cool, juicy stuff that gives us access to our own unconscious process, helps us redefine our identity and our beliefs in a way that empowers us in our life and make decisions about that, get really proactive about it.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
book's that. I think I'm going to pair with them yesterday and put some materials there in there, and we'll include it with some audio recordings of her doing a ceremony, which would be amazing. It'll be like a full ceremony in a book, right? How cool is
Yeah.
that?
That is very cool.
Yeah,
A
I'm
book with
super
a CD. Yes.
excited.
Yes. I can't wait. I want a signed
Me
copy.
neither. Me neither.
actually, actually, we'll have definitely want to have you on the show while when the publication comes out and stuff.
I would love that.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned about weaknesses. I've I I've had weaknesses growing up, and then realized, well, that weakness is actually a strength. Um,
Yes.
or there might be people out there that have a particular weakness, but they're not looking at it as a strength, which is
Mhm.
very important. And
Right.
that is a transfer, should be a transformation that we should look at. That, hey, I might be bad at, I'm not a good hitter when it comes to baseball. I might be a good thrower. I might be a good, outfield person or the water boy, but yeah, it intrigues me too that this is something that's very important, especially today, where I see a lot of people and of all ages that people are not giving themselves enough credit, and as soon as they see a failure in themselves, they shut down, they run, and they're afraid to tackle life because of that feeling of failure. And what's your take on that?
Well, rejection is a really powerful motivator. Unfortunately, it's in our biology. It's, and I could speak about this ad infinitum, but I won't bore you with that. Just know that it is in our material
Yeah.
to be naturally highly averse to rejection. This is why it feels like we're dying, because in the past it would have meant that, but it doesn't anymore. But our neurology hasn't really caught up with our new society, right, in a lot of ways. So, and now because our society is so interconnected and so available to view the inner workings of our personal lives, let's talk about social media, right?
Yeah.
That a failure is a big deal. Whereas in the past, we would forget about it next week. Now it's on there forever. I am so glad I grew up in a time where all my dumb choices are not on Facebook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Well, what about for you, Paul? Because I know that you've gone through a lot too when it comes to making decisions about how you see yourself. What's a perceived fail or weakness that you saw that you were able to turn into a strength?
Well, I think I still look like a dork on video. I mean, every now and then I still look at how I'll look at something that I did, and I'm like, wow, I look like a real dork. I'm like, and it just,
I think you
is
look
it a
classy.
good dork?
So
Is it bad? I don't know.
okay, so let's use this example, right? Because it's fun and I like that, it's lighthearted. So we're going to take what we perceive as a weakness. I look dorky, right?
Yeah.
So that would be a negative situation, right? I feel dorky, I look dorky, I don't feel good, doesn't feel good, right? Now, where would that actually be a really strong strength? So you're doing a podcast or a radio show, right? And I love the format. And you're surrounded by all kinds of people who look all different kinds of ways, but you look your way. And the fact that you're approachable, congenial, real, an actual person with all of these, accolades and experiences and degrees and all of this, but also a real person is so approachable. So I would look at Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes and think, oh my God, I don't know if I can even talk to this guy. But I look at you and I see you and I'm like, wow, you're actually like a real human. You're kind of a cutie, like I can talk to this guy. And so that thing that was a weakness, the thing that created a fear, I don't want to get on camera because I look dorky, is actually a selling point for you when you realize that the people you're speaking to are also in fear. We
Yeah.
all have
Yeah.
fears. And it's okay to be open and vulnerable about that all the time, And the more we do that, the more we realize we actually all have so much more in common, the more we can encourage each other out of it. Because where our fear is, where our weaknesses are, that's actually where our gifts are, because that gives us an opportunity to notice where we're different,
Yeah.
and different is good.
Yeah.
And we say that, but then we fear it also.
Yeah. And also surrendering to that fear, because if I thought I think I've been doing this throughout my entire life, is I remember that anytime that I feared something, I would just literally dive deep into the water and approach that fear. And it's like scuba diving. I never thought about scuba diving. I mean,
I think about it
not
all
that
the
I was
time.
afraid of water, but I was afraid of deep water. I mean, everybody's pretty much afraid of deep water. And people would just not think about, okay, so I went scuba diving and did that. And now, after saying that I look dorky or sound dorky on video, people are like, well, he's not going to be a person that's going to want to be on video, not going to want to have his picture taken or be
And
on
here you
microphone or
are
being
doing a great
recorded.
job.
But here I am. I'm on
Doing
video.
awesome.
And it's like, okay, that's counterproductive.
I feel the same way though, because I just told you actually when we were speaking before we started recording that I started producing video content because I was really nervous about being on camera.
Yeah.
And I love to teach. And I love to teach, but it was something that I used to be terrified of. And I was told something by a course director, actually my scuba course director, to talk about diving. I wanted to start operating in a more professional role. And so he said, "Are you going to teach classes?" And I said, "Okay, I'll show up, but you'll let me know when." And I got there to the classes. University program is real formal stuff. We Coast Guard Auxiliary, the whole deal. And he says, "Okay, go ahead and get up and teach. You're teaching this class." And I looked at him. I said, "Excuse me, what? I'm not prepared. I didn't know. Like, I can't do that. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm too scared." Sweating, mouth dry, the whole deal. And he looks at me, and I never forget what he said. He says, um, he says, "You are probably the most annoyingly informed student I've ever had. No one even cares about this section. It's like the history of diving. Just get up there and talk. And if you care about it, someone else will." And I swear, I got up and I said, "Okay, no one cares, got it." And I just started sharing what it was that inspired me. And I was asked by half the class, "Oh, you're such a good teacher. How long have you been teaching? You seem kind of young to have been teaching a long time." It's like, "Well, 25 minutes, about 40 minutes." And I suddenly became so inspired by the idea that we can give what it is that we're passionate about if we can stop freaking out about what we think others are going to think about how we think about what others are thinking about. I mean, for what purpose is that?
Yeah.
So I started teaching, and then I decided to do video content because it scared me. And now I love it. And here we are having a great time. On there's
Yeah.
TikTok and there's video classes and there's all kinds of fun stuff. And I love it because we can get to share with people in a really intimate way and each other across time and space. And especially recently in our current social climate, it's been really important to be able to be okay on video.
Yeah. With the growing technology of broadcasting, and it's amazing.
That's right.
It is amazing.
It is.
Yep. Now there is a growing culture out there, or a growing demand, or a growing point out there that of shamanic practices and stuff. What's your thought on one, choosing the right practitioner, if people are looking to getting into the holistic aspect and getting into the tribal or the traditional aspect of medicine and practices?
I love this question, Paul. I really appreciate you asking that. It seems like a very multi-piece answer, so I'll try and keep it as streamlined as possible. But I'm very passionate about this subject. This is going to be my TED topic, TED Talk topic. I've been asked to do speaking in conferences and stuff on exactly this, and I think it's because what I thought was something that was my weakness is actually my strength. I am also a woman of science and academia and education, and that matters to me as well. But I also work in spiritual traditions, so they seem to not to marry. My place is on the bridge in the middle. They do marry.
Yeah.
It's so my perspective has always been about evolution, and then I had to ask myself the question, at what point do we need to honor and respect the tradition for some anthropological value, or do we need to honor and respect it because this is the only way? And we can talk specifically about the medicines if you want, as a function, as a facet of these traditions, and what is becoming rapidly one of the more popular elements of this resurgence, right? Which is that the medicines have to be operated within a certain context of procedure, right? That includes protocol and dieta, that includes the icaros, the songs, the magic, that includes the tools, that includes the herbs, that includes the everything, that includes the location, the context, all of it. But at what point have we as a culture stepped outside of being able to actually have a benefit from that?
Yeah.
And at what point are we no longer honoring the original intention that the tradition wrapped itself around in the first place? So, for example, to get specific, if that's okay with you.
No problem.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about ayahuasca. Okay, so ayahuasca is a vine, and it is making its creep around the whole world really fast, right?
Yes, it is.
And it's powerful. It's also dangerous. And it is an incredible healer. It is a tool like any other, right? And so the questions are, at what point do we have to adhere to the strict protocols of which region, first of all, which tribe, right?
Yeah.
And then for what purpose? So in shamanic traditions specifically, there's a lot of focus on suffering. In order order to become a leader or a healer in these disciplines, you need to be broken in order to be rebuilt into something else. You need to abandon everything that you are, that you know, that you think, that you believe, that you see, and you come apart and you become exhausted. I mean, it's a damaging and difficult process. To work in these traditions now, it's a job, but at the time, and in a lot of places still, it's not a job, it's a life. It's who you are, it's not what you do.
Yeah.
And it's a product of you, who you've become, you know, rather than a thing that you do for your work. So the way that we operate now, for example, and we actually got a lot of flack for this in the community where we're at, because we work, like we said earlier, focusing on this like single point focus on source, right, which is unconditional love. So how is it that unconditional love can give healing and ask for suffering in return? Love does not ask for suffering. Love does not ask for sacrifice. Love does not ask for pain. Love actually asks for nothing. Love only gives. And we all know the things that go with love, which is joy and peace and fun, and the good, warm, juicy stuff that goes with what love is supposed to mean for us. So especially unconditional love truly without condition,
Yeah.
which we say the word unconditional love, but what does that really mean to you now? So if we're operating in the context of a shamanic discipline, focused on or predicated on the idea that there had to be suffering and rigor in order to heal, from the perspective of unconditional love, like it starts to be non-compatible.
Yeah.
So at what point do we no longer need some of these traditional elements? And at what point do we really need to learn a lot more about the traditional elements that actually do support the process? And at what point are we neglecting that which is helpful, or misplacing the use of it because of social context? For example, we don't know how to interpret dreams. How do we know how to navigate a visionary escape? Maybe we need to pay a lot more attention about what seemed automatic and normal and unconscious for these indigenous peoples. They just implicitly know how to navigate visionary states and dream states because it's part of their culture context. So they don't really talk about it. We don't talk about how to walk, you just do it. So, but in our context, we need to talk about it. So maybe these are things we need to deep dive in more. So I think choosing your practitioner has a lot to do with what you want to get out of your practice. If you're going to a healer because you want a traditional anthropologically correct experience, that's going to be a different kind of thing, but there will be your hurdles. You'll have your out of place experience. And what will it really mean for you? Or you can go to someone who is completely past the idea of tradition, is completely revolutionary is their idea, but is completely missing the stuff that makes it an amazing and rich experience, and truly a powerful healing, and has abandoned what it is that supports the process. Or you find someone who sort of found a path in the middle. That's sort of what we've had to learn to navigate, is to find a way that honors the intention, honors the integrity, that complements the indigenous practice and mindset and life way and mentality and culture context and all of that, with this modern world that doesn't cohabitate with this. So how do we bring that together? And this is where faith and science come together. This is where religion and art, and math and language all come together, and it creates this amazing product. But choosing your practitioner is so essential, especially because of the rise of shamanistic traditions and plant medicines and the ease of access to these things. There are so many practitioners that, I'm going to be completely judgy here, have no business serving medicines to other people.
Yeah.
They don't have any training, they don't have any knowledge, they're messed up themselves, they're passing that energy forward, they do not know how to handle a crisis. Even people who have gone to the Amazon and they want to study with the ayahuasca traditions, guess what they don't teach down there? You can't take ayahuasca and be on Prozac. You can kill somebody, So people are getting hurt. They're having psychotic breaks or mental health episodes. People who are not trained at all in mental health coaching or transformation at all are trying to get into a sphere where it's not just that, it's also a powerful and deep impact. It ought to be a positive one, right? So I think it requires both intuition and education as much as possible. But Paul, that's how you are. You get so good at everything you do because you put so much into it and you put all your heart into it. And it's so important to choose to work with people who are like that, because that's going to be what you get out of it too, and the weekend warrior is not going to give you the same type of experience as someone who's fully committed and dedicated to a lifestyle. You know what I mean? Well, that's who you are. You are so committed to everything you do. And I respect that about you so much. I love that. And I think that's essential. Did I answer your question? I don't know if I just
Yes, you did. Yes, you
okay.
did. And since you did bring up, I didn't, because I wanted to wait until you brought up ayahuasca. So since you did, It seems to be a growing
Mhm.
craze.
Yeah.
It's being talked about more now than the first time I've actually heard it. And I think I
Mhm.
originally heard it probably about a good 10 years ago.
Mhm.
I'm starting to see more broadcasts on it. I'm starting to see more people talking about it. Um, I had a guest on the show. Actually, he hasn't been a guest on the show. I did a documentary with him. If you haven't seen it already, Jim Vieira. He's been on the History Channel quite a few times on the Giants and Edgar Casey and doing all
Mhm.
these documentaries. So I've worked with him, and we'll continue working with him. And he's probably been to the. I think he does go to the Amazon to do have the ayahuasca experiences, and works with the shamans down there, and kind of hangs out with them, and kind of gets as much as he can with it. And what he's learned from it and the stuff he's talked about, um and then with other people too, of other broadcasters and stuff like that, or other people in the public sector, um have been going through, been taking their retreats and stuff like that. The Like I said, no, see, I just lost focus. Ayahuasca, for those out there, is when you mentioned unconditional love. Yes, but my experience with it is, before you get, in order for us to experience that unconditional love, ayahuasca to me seems like, okay, first we need to clean out the closet, get all of that stuff out of the closet that's keeping you from experiencing unconditional love. What are those obstacles in your life? What are those, psychological or emotional things that are keeping you from the experience? It pulls those out. It helps you. You have to immerse yourself in it. It's literally like, it's going to allow you to face those demons, which might be bad, might be good. Most of the time they are bad, because it's the things that, that are keeping you away from unconditional love. Um, and yeah, I mean, what's your take on it? That seems to be my approach and my
It's
observation from
beautiful.
it.
I love it. Um, the experience is different every time, and it's different for everyone, and it's different from each practitioner. The practitioners will each sort of have like a flavor, and the
Hmm.
ceremonies will theme to the flavor. Depending on the type of work that is done in our ceremonies, everyone will actually be sharing a theme, which is really interesting. It has its own
Yeah,
type of magic, the retreats.
yeah,
Um, as far as the actual process itself, for some people, what is traditional is that you go for a healing. You want to purge an attachment to an experience, which is ultimately what the outcome is. Some people think that they're going to remember forgotten things. Some people feel like they want to heal from a trauma. What it really is a release of the emotional attachment, the charge that goes with the experience. So you can
yeah,
say, okay, I remember, but I forgive, and I'm done now. So it is highly, highly clarifying and cleansing. And this is why the purge is there. A lot of people think that the vomiting is a side effect. It's actually, in a lot of cases, the crux of the experience,
yeah,
because it's about letting go. Purging is not necessary. Purging happens in many ways, as you know.
yeah,
um, Crying, go in the bathroom, shaking, singing, anything can happen, sweating, whatever. It
yeah,
can be physical, it can be emotional. You can feel waves of energy coming off of you. For some people, they go through the experience of reviewing their life flashing before their eyes in some function or another. Some will go on a visionary trip where they'll feel like they're traveling somewhere and they learn something. Some people will experience downloads. Our retreats are designed in a multi-ceremony series in order to induce that experience as well. So the peak entheogenic experience, what that means is the peak, like God within self experience,
yeah,
is that you notice that you are one with source. That's it. You have an ecstatic experience that is, I am one with God. I am in the face of God. And those experiences range from floating in space in a ball of light to I was standing on the shores of eternity and Jesus was washing my feet, and I've seen it all. So it is not related to religion whatsoever. We've had people in ceremony have incredible ecstatic experiences from all different walks, including atheists, which is amazing. It doesn't have to have anything to do with your proclivity and your faith.
yeah,
What it does teach you you though, and what you will gain from it, is that you are much bigger than you think you are, that you are so much more than you think you are. And ayahuasca has a way of showing us that. And sometimes it drags us to our own depths, if that's what you want to see. And with the maestra, the work she used to do, she was the keeper of the underworld. She would bring you down into your own depths of your suffering, your despair, your attachments, to help you chop the heads off of them. But what we've discovered now, and why our ceremonies are significantly more peaceful now, is that we can go through, I'm going to date myself. Are you ready? We can go through a Rolodex of like all of life's problems, like this sexual abuse, this trauma, this I can't think, that's bad breakup, this, bad work experience, this, my daddy did this to me, whatever, all of it,
Yeah.
all day long. And each ceremony, you can go one after the other after the other. In our method, what we believe is possible to evolve through is to throw out the entire Rolodex and just go straight to that entheogenic experience. Because in the space of unconditional love, nothing else can hurt. Nothing else can matter. There is no
Yeah.
pain, shadow, and darkness in the space of love and light. And it's not to say that they do not exist, but to be in light, enlightenment, right, is for there to be a shadow, there has to be an object to cast a shadow from a source of light. So when we remove the objects, the attachments, right, to the objects, the memories, the situations, the emotions, the beliefs, the identities, when we remove all of that, what is left is just the light, because there is no shadow in that space, right? Now, that doesn't mean that shadow work isn't a valuable part of our spiritual process. It's not what I'm talking about. But in the space of the work that we're doing now, where we've evolved, a lot of our participants will go straight into a death or ecstatic experience. Now, the death experience for some, we'll call it an ego death, right, is very much for some like crossing over to the other side, and can be very unnerving. For some, it's like leaving their body and floating into bliss. For some, it's like suddenly I was there in heaven talking to Jesus, and my brother was there who died, and like we had a conversation.
Yeah.
It can be anything. It's really personal. So, but it's also universal. When you come out of that experience, you know what that look is on someone's face. You just know, because you can't have an experience like that and not be moved. And you can't have an experience like that and not in some way be changed forever. And that's the point. So to answer your question, yes, it can ask you to weave through your experiences, your stories, your identities. It can feel like a completely random thing, although it always feels meaningful, even if the interpretation may be unintegrated, which is why the integration process is probably the most important part of
Oh
any
yeah.
ceremony.
Yeah. The integration is definitely
Yeah.
important. I felt that was very important. And a
Yes.
lack of a better word, I would describe it as kind of like, I've never been to an AA meeting, but it's almost like going to an AA meeting.
Yeah.
It's
Not
like
unlike
you
that.
walk in and, because and a lot of people don't want to share these personal things and stuff like that.
Yes.
But it is very important, because
Yes.
then you are consciously aware of what you
Yes.
want to try to get rid of
Exactly.
what you want to face and
Right.
what you
And
want
you
to
have
heal.
an opportunity to process the experience, because sometimes we'll see things that we don't really quite understand what it's for. But a shaman, and a good one, like for example, the maestro and myself, actually, in this case, can actually see your visions, at least you're in peace or in whole during the experience.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me, I don't really know what happened, but there was a snake and then it was weird and then it turned black, I'll look at you and say, yeah, there was a snake. The snake was there. It was eating this memory. And you're like, oh my God, I did have that memory. That's so weird. Okay, well, now you can let go of the attachment of that, because that's a theme and a pattern in your life that you no longer have to face and see anymore. Here's a tool that you can use to never have to deal with that again. Here's how you draw boundaries. So the integration process is so essential. We actually get a lot of people into our ceremonies with like ceremony PTSD from other
Yeah.
ceremonies, and also with completely unintegrated ceremony. And so people think that they want to come into ceremony again to understand the original process from the first event.
Uh-huh.
But the truth is that they really need integration. And I'm now seeing, which is cool, a lot of integration counselors showing up. But I'm also now seeing that they're not all equipped to deal with the type of experiences that are produced by these type of ceremonies.
Yeah.
So an integration counselor for a life trauma is going to be completely different than for a visionary experience. So
Hmm.
I highly advise, if you're going to choose a practitioner, please at least find someone who can help you with the integration after, even if it's not the practitioner itself. But it is unusual to sit there and speak to the shaman. They often don't even speak your same language. So I think it's cool that, that we get to do the integration together, because the insights that come out of what the shaman sees is incredible, and it really makes a huge difference as to what the impact is and how you deal with it. If you have a mind-blowing experience and you're sort of floating around in life, the question is, and Paul, I know you know how this feels. How do I be now? Like, how do I how do I now? Like, how do I be now? So what do? We don't know what to do. So we revert to our highest level of training, which is exactly who we were before we went in. Or we can build some tools and some framework around the supporting the process of transformation and become the person we've always dreamed to be, organically, naturally, effortlessly, which is the best part.
Wow. There is another not too I wasn't aware of this when I first started researching ayahuasca, but you had also introduced prior to the ayahuasca experience is a Kambo.
Oh, yes. I'm a
Can you explain what I already know what it is, but some of our listeners are like, ooh, Kambo.
Well, it's also become very trendy, so I'm glad we're talking about it.
Yeah, and I've
Because
now
it's also dangerous.
started hearing about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
So I actually do a whole class on just sacred medicines, just the overview of what's out there, what's available, what they do, why they're different, how they interact. Kambo goes with ayahuasca in a lot of ways. Kambo was given by ayahuasca. I can tell you the whole legend and all that. All right, well, it's up to you. But the it is a powerful physical detox. For some people, it's in my practice, it's very spiritual, right? So just about everyone who experiences it with me also has a very spiritual experience. But I've noticed that a lot of people who go to other practitioners don't find that it's as spiritual or emotional as it is physical. But for me, I feel like it's a very holistic practice. But even in my herbalism practice, it's very much all spiritual and emotional and physical. You know, it's not allopathic. This type of medicine is not meant to be allopathic. This herb for this liver condition, for that, you know, it's not really, how about this support for this anger problem, which helps with the liver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's helpful with Kambo also to consider that, yes, it's a powerful detox. It's amazing for the lymph system. It's good for the secretions and digestions and metabolism and thyroid, and like all these, they're using it for cancer. They're actually, modern science has identified over 200 peptides that are introduced into the lymph system that do everything from help with instigate the body's natural autophagy process, which means, you know what free radicals are? Your cells sort of break apart and move on in their life. We're constantly regenerating, right? Well, when they break apart, they just sort of, their organelles just kind of like go out and float around in our bodies. And the lymph system, among other processes, helps flush all that out. It's just trash at that point, body's waste product. So sometimes we don't process out our toxins fast enough, and so they get stuck in our body. So the Kambo flushes all that out really fast. Feels amazing. It makes your skin look phenomenal. It does. It does. For some people, it's gentle. For some people, it's intense. It's different every time. It includes a little burn on the skin. I have discovered that apparently that's trendy now, Paul. I didn't know that. I was told it's called a Kambo tattoo, and I'm like, okay,
really?
how about it's just Kambo?
Huh.
But that comes from a frog. So we have so many available options out there as far as where we're sourcing our healing. You know, that's a critter medicine as opposed to a plant medicine. But again, know your practitioner, know your medicines.
Yes.
What's in your ayahuasca? It can kill you.
Make
Your
sure
Kambo may come from tortured frogs. You know, make sure that that's not in your medicine or not part of the world that you live in, you know? So I think the choosing your practitioner and knowing your medicine is so important. People are putting all kinds of stuff in ayahuasca now that should not be there. And people are doing all kinds of things to these frogs that should never happen. And it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll share a little bit about my Kambo experience.
Yeah, please do.
Not
It was
afraid to do that. Because everybody's asked me when I told them about it, you know, they're all like, oh, wow, how was your experience? And so I'll just recap for those who I haven't told yet. So I got seven dots. And,
that's a lot from me. I don't usually get
really. Wow. Wait, no, it isn't 7. 6. Yeah, it's 6. Okay.
I remember. I gave you a good amount of points.
And yeah, it literally felt you drink all this water, just guzzled 3 20-ounce bottles down as quick as you can. I had no problem with that until I got down to the 3rd bottle, and it felt like I did have to puke. And as soon as you laid the very first mark, that stuff works really quick.
You feel it.
Like I walked into a sauna. And
you don't have to wonder if it's working, right?
Yeah, it's like, is it working? Oh, it's working.
Yeah.
And I think by the time you got to the 5th or 6th, actually no, by the time the 6th one, you said I passed out. And I don't remember anything.
You had visions.
And I definitely had visions. I saw something, but apparently I don't remember it. And you said it looked like I saw something that I kind of like looked up really in awe before I just passed out.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. And you said I had these like convulsions and stuff, and you had asked if I was at a keyboard a lot. And I yeah, I am at work. I'm always on the keyboard at work if I'm not out in the field. And you said it helps. This can potentially help repair certain like neural networks and stuff like that.
Yeah, it can activate the CNS, the central nervous system. Um, a lot of people are touting Kambo as like a panacea for all things, and I would
Yeah.
like to agree that it is. You know, of course, there's no such critter, but it does so much for the body. And yeah, you're having these like convulsions with your hands. It was you look like a little
Yeah.
raptor. You know, it was awesome, and I could tell because your hands were like where the nerves had been in a consistent pattern, they were trying to like fire in a different pattern to like reactivate themselves. And I've seen that a few times or a bunch of times, and it is often with people who are doing the same repetitive motions again and again, or for people who have had neurological damage.
Yeah.
So for example, sometimes with diabetics, you'll have neurological damage or from an injury or whatever, and I can always find it. I can always point it out because because you'll see it. You know, you see like a little twitching or whatever, seizing up, and
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Huh. Wow. And I think you had given everybody who goes to these retreats, you always give them a packet of very specific guidelines to go off of prior to that, and like a preparation. Okay, a diet preparation, a lifestyle preparation, usually a week before that you should start working on. And I took it so seriously. There's quite a few things on that packet where you're like, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I can give up beef or pork or sex or caffeine or anything or cigarettes or I mean it's very 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 restrictive. And
Mhm.
to be honest with you, I mean when I was getting ready to do this, I was like, I'm not gonna waste my time or your time or anybody else's time and not do this the right way the first time. And I haven't eaten beef or pork since then.
That
Um,
can happen.
yeah. And people are asking me now, they're like, why don't you eat pork? Are you Hebrew? I'm like, no. um, or are you Jewish? I'm like, no, well, a little bit, but not that much.
Not that Jewish.
Yeah.
Jewish, just a little. Right?
I can tell you right now, boy, I miss bacon. I really miss bacon. But to be honest with you, I don't miss it that bad. So yeah, I think I prepared myself so precisely of those guidelines that you've laid out that may have prevented me from purging as much as I did or as much as other people did there. Because there was I think the majority of them really it was during the Kambo and during the ayahuasca, because I only
So
remember purging
the
a very little
protocol
bit during
is
ayahuasca.
the protocol does affect the purging. That's one of the reasons I like to offer Kambo. One, because I love this medicine. Two, because to clarify the body before going with ayahuasca, because
Yeah.
ayahuasca can just focus on the head and the mind and the heart, then not have to worry so much about also detoxing the body, because it's also a powerful blood detoxer, anti-cancer, and all of this. So it creates a different kind of space for ayahuasca to come up underneath, right? But also because a lot of people are not as aggressive with the protocol. And I respect so highly that you took it seriously. But protocol is a few reasons. One, health and safety, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason, there's a reason for those things. Two is straight up the mindset of commitment. When you make a decision to really make a change and you're giving yourself that totem of, I'm doing this, I'm transforming, I'm changing, I'm committed every day. And traditionally, it's 3 to 6 months, by the way.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
That's
And
before.
no meat. Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm. And depending on what kind of medications or what kind of diet or other addiction considerations people have, then yeah, it can take that long to be able to detox enough just to be safe, right?
Yeah.
And safety is I'm a rescue professional. Safety is paramount concern. There's a reason people are getting sick and dying. Like, there's a reason that it's dangerous. And these dangerous scenarios are most often easily prevented. But what happens is people come into ayahuasca because of addiction problems, and it is phenomenally helpful for this. Unless you're on something, in which case you have a really terrible and potentially life-threatening experience. We had someone come into ceremony who was having an awful time, and I'm looking at him going, he's on something.
Yeah.
And oh, no, definitely not. He took cocaine that day. Come on. We tell you no coffee for 3 weeks, but you're going to take cocaine. But people lie because they have an addiction problem. And the problem with the addiction is, if they could have stopped it themselves already, then they would have.
Yeah.
So the problem is not what they think it is. The problem is what they're coming to ayahuasca to solve. A mental conditioning issue, to relieve the trauma of whatever that is they're bearing with the addiction. Addiction comes in many forms. That's substances, that's depression, that's anger, that's anxiety. All of that's an addiction of the mind. It's the constant firing of the same pattern of the mind is what addiction is. So we come to ayahuasca for all kinds of addictions, not just physiological ones. But the protocol, yes, there were a couple, actually, in that ceremony, a few people who had regular alcohol issues, and I knew that they weren't going to be able to clean up. But that's okay, because I knew that this experience could make an impact for them. And at some point, that's the discretion and intuition of the healer.
Yeah.
And there are some who will say, you've touched alcohol in 3 weeks, I'm not taking you. Or some will say, oh, you drank alcohol this morning? Come on, let me load you up with some tea. But for them, I told them specifically, I will offer Kambo if someone wants it. But in their case, I told them they could come to ceremony, but they're taking Kambo, because I didn't want to risk the health implication or the negative possible experience of the combination of what I knew would be in their system during an ayahuasca experience. And it's not to say that it's guaranteed that it would have been a horrible experience. And sometimes it doesn't matter how long you've been off of something. So, for example, we had a woman in a ceremony one time, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, I don't know, something, that she hadn't taken painkillers for her back in like a year and a half or 2 years or something like this, but she had been on barbiturates, and it was enough. And she had a DT experience.
Ooh.
Vegan, no drinking, no smoking, real clean lifestyle, but she had taken them long enough ago. It was just in her system. So you just never know, what's going to come up, and you have to be prepared to deal with it. And protocol prevention is the best way to just be sure that you're at least reducing what's possible as far as risk when it comes to working with these chemicals. They're chemicals, and ayahuasca contains an MAOI inhibitor. So if someone is on a mood altering substance, it can cause seizures. All kinds of things can happen. It operates on the serotogenetic system. So anything that's related to the serotonin or nervous system or whatever systems, not safe. So protocol is important. It's also about our measure of commitment and dedication to our process of transformation. So it's so much more. And I respect so much that I know you stuck with it. You were looking kind of skinny when you come in. Did you like starve yourself, or you were on a watermelon diet for like 3 days or something?
I was on a rabbit diet. I mean,
yeah, you were a little
I did have, the week prior, I was doing the fish or fowl, but
Right.
it was very light.
Mm-hmm.
Vegetables, all fresh vegetables, no processed foods. And I still today, nothing processed. I have yet to touch processed foods, meaning
That's great.
no lunch meats and stuff like that. Still today, no beef or pork. I'll still do the fresh, the fresh poultry or the fresh fish. I mean, yeah, I partake in caffeine, hence, the coffee and stuff like that.
But what's traditional is actually completely fasted for at least 3 days. And
Wow.
I usually do it not
I
just
was gonna do that, but I
physically.
was like, I had to work, and I'm not gonna go to work and not
Well,
eat.
yeah, we have lives, and we live in a modern world. This is what I'm talking about, evolution. Is that truly necessary? And
Yeah.
the answer is no, because we can, I mean, are you going to have a really intense experience if you fast for 3 days? You're going to have an intense experience if you fast for 3 days, full stop. Like, that's just in general, right? And
Yeah.
then you're going to add some medicine ceremony. There's a completely different mindset that you're going in with, completely different way you feel in your body, and a way that your body's operating, and the way that your hormones are flowing. Like, everything's different anyway, right? And then you add a ceremony experience. But as far as the fasting goes, we've discovered that if you fast, then you also experience like physical weakness. And for some people, that's really disconcerting. It's really uncomfortable. It really is exhausting.
Yeah.
They can't enjoy the experience because they feel like crap, or we all have blood sugar issues now, and you got to eat something, and but you can't because you're in ceremony. None of that's actually necessary the same way that it used to be,
Yeah.
And in some cases, yes. And in every ceremony, we have participants come in fasting, and have some participants that come in that hate a light breakfast that day, and that's fine.
True. True. Wow. And yeah, so for those out there that are listeners or viewers and stuff that want to partake or want to know if ayahuasca is for them, if that's something that is for them, what would you recommend, or some maybe points that they should
So
actually be concerned about?
the first thing that we all do when we want to learn something more is look it up online, right? But there are so many documentaries and all of this that to me look like misinformation now, but yet do provide good caveats for what's possible inside of these spaces. Um, with more availability of information, there's more availability of misinformation. So just be really conscientious of that. I always advise trusting intuition. If you feel that you're feeling called to this medicine, which means, or any medicine, or any type of experience, a yoga retreat, whatever,
Yeah.
that, a new job, a new partner, right? If you feel called to something, you'll know. Right. And if it's not showing up, sometimes I'll get messages saying, oh, I can't find a good practitioner. Well, then it's because the right practitioner hasn't shown up for you yet.
Hmm.
Sometimes
Yeah.
the answer is not no, it's just not now, and fighting and pushing and struggling and searching and searching and searching may not be the best way to do it. I have just about never had an experience where someone has said to me, or has not said to me, wow, I just really feel like the reason I needed to wait this many years is because I needed to work with you guys, because I needed to work with your process, because I needed what you guys do that's so different. I needed that, not just the medicine. I needed this transformation program. I needed whatever it is that is the essence of what it is that we do that makes our work unique, that makes everyone's work unique. So ultimately, faith, patience, trust your own intuition. If you really, really, really want to do ceremony and you suddenly meet a practitioner, but it just feels kind of weird, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it, right? This
Yeah.
is a powerful moment in your life. It should be right. And it will be when the time is right. And sometimes it takes a little time and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes a thought comes in your head and the practitioner shows up and you're ready to go. And sometimes you need to do something for yourself to be ready for that process. And so it takes time. Maybe something needed to happen for you to be able to deal with it. You thought you were going to go in with your partner, so you've been looking for it for 2 years, and then all of a sudden you broke up with your partner and 3 months later it showed up. Well, maybe because you weren't supposed to go with that partner.
Yeah.
So just have faith in the process and know that the experience is about recognizing that we are so much bigger than we think we are. We
Yeah.
have so much more magic, possibility, and potential than we think we do. And that medicine will show us that. And we have to be open to saying yes to receiving that inspiration too, in the midst of that process of discovering that. I do so much work with deep dream work and subconscious rewiring, and I teach whole programs and workshops on how to interpret dreams and how to dive deep into your own unconscious, and how to achieve transcendental states without medicines, with just disciplines, and it's fast and it's easy and it's fun, and
Yeah.
there's so much that we're truly capable of. How to have an ecstatic experience with your breath, and it's not as hard as you think it is. Well, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we're open to the idea that the picture is bigger than what we're seeing now, not just us, but also the mechanism of what's happening, then the right experience will show up for us. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah. There was also actually I do remember her name, but I'm not going to mention it on the air anyway, but it's just she showed up, and um and just to let everybody know too, you don't have to take the medicine to have an experience at a
No,
retreat.
you don't.
She didn't take the medicine. Did she take Kambo? Did she
No,
have the Kambo?
no, we have one or two every ceremony that are scholarships, that are not there taking that medicine, that are doing a different type of thing, but just to
Yeah.
be in the healing space.
Yeah.
You've known the maestro for a while. I've seen her do like shamanic blessings, no medicines, people will start vomiting and dripping. You don't need
Wow.
this substance. And that's what we teach. That's what we really teach.
Yeah.
I love
Because when
that.
she was going through it, she was with us the entire retreat, and she said she had her own experience with not even being on the medicine because
And her life
she
has since
experienced it
changed
through
completely.
everybody else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Her
Yeah.
life changed forever, completely. Yeah,
Yep,
she's a completely different
exactly.
person. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, just to
amazing.
be open to the energy of it, and whatever that is. But that is equal to, one can say that an experience like this provides us a moment of really intense energy, but so does going on a kayak, on a Tuesday. So does going to church, so does going to dig in your own garden, with your hands in the dirt and your plants. So, to take those small moments as equally sacred, to recognize that your life is and also is not sacred, that it is your playground as
Yeah,
much as it is your moment of revelation whenever it is you're ready to say yes to receiving that type of inspiration. These are skills, though. We cultivate this with discipline. That's part of what we did in the integration, was like how to recognize your own magic, how
yeah,
to how to make life a little bit more malleable. That's manifestation right there. Like how to access other dimensions and transcendental states at any time, how to change how you feel and your mindset at any time, how to have access to psychic skills, how to cultivate psychic skills. Those are skills. Those are not gifts, those are skills, right? And
hmm,
all of this we have access to, and the only easiest tool that is ever necessary to give is just to say yes to the awareness and to be open to it, and saying yes to being able to receive it. And that's enough. So whether it's a ceremony and you're in the energy of a space like that, or whether you're creating your own ceremony and energy space, I teach a lot about creating ceremony and ritual. I have a whole 13-week program coming up on it about just making your own ritual that empowers you, not following someone else's tradition, but making your own magic,
yeah.
that it's so empowering and it's so simple. Brushing your teeth can be a transcendental experience. So I love that you said that. Yeah, she had a magical experience, and we always have someone in ceremony who's not partaking in the medicines and has a life-changing experience, because we create a context for it and there's the energy for it, and the maestro is a phenomenal healer. There's a lot going on in there, but that is also possible just by the desire and the will for it, the openness to it.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. Oof. Yeah, and
You're so cute, Paul. I love you.
thank you. Um, so how often for somebody who, like, for the first time, how often should an ayahuasca experience take place? Is it every couple years, every 3 years? What is the space
Yeah.
between each?
That, my dear friend, is up to spirit. So for some people, there's this idea floating around that somehow it's addictive. Trust me, it's not something you want to do again right away. And in fact, in our
Oh,
extended programs in the Healing Center, we had an 8-day program. We've also done a 12-day program. We had 3 ceremonies back to back. By the 3rd day, that's a lot of ceremony, especially because of the way we do our work. Some people will go and do ceremonies for weeks, but depending on the type of work that you're doing, that can mean one thing or another. But when you get the point, do you need to keep doing it again and again and again and again? So some people want to come back. For example, we have some frequent flyers, that's what I like to call them, that come to ceremonies, and they'll come to as many of them as they can. They'll come every so many months, they'll come. And this is because of one of 2 reasons, okay? Or one of 3. Really 2, I guess. One, and the reason I admit these frequent flyers, because I do say no to people, because we don't do joy rides, we do transformation. You know what I
yeah,
mean? We're not going on a trippy trip for fun, although it is fun. It's a great time. I love it. It's an intense healing for a reason. That she comes because she truly commits to the process. She learns something unique and beautiful every time. She fully integrates it and applies it to her life. She makes a beautiful change in her life. And then when she's ready, she'll come to the next one because she wants to work on something else.
yeah,
And it's always an amazing experience. Sometimes she knows exactly what she's coming for, sometimes she doesn't. And a lot of our frequent flyers are like this. Now, I have known people who will go to ceremony as a crutch. I broke up with another boyfriend. I can't cope, so I'm just going to go to ceremony instead of dealing with my emotions.
yeah,
So this becomes a spiritual and emotional laziness. And I have seen that. However, know that ceremony will eventually remind you that that is not the way. And you may not like it, but you will learn that message. The medicines
yeah,
do teach, the plants will tell you that is not what they are for. So for some people, I would say some like to come to ceremony every few months. Some will never do it and they don't need to. Some shouldn't and want to. And some really should and don't want to. And some do it once, and that's all they ever need to. They get it and they they install that whatever it is in their life, they have the experience they needed, and they sat and looked into the face of God, and their life was changed forever, and they moved forward, and that was that, and everything was different after that, and that's all they ever needed. Some, they want to come all the time, so it's completely up to what feels called by the individual, and you'll know. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, you'll be thinking about it all the time. You're like, man, if I could just go to ceremony, I think that'd be amazing. I have this thing I want to work on, and it'll come, it'll come.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really a one size fits all answer for that, like whatsoever. And I wish I could give you a better one. Does
And
that work though?
oh, it works. And I
Okay.
tell you what, some people ask me to, what was it like? And I tell them it's an intimate experience. It's a
Very.
very intimate experience, and it
Mhm.
is something that should be taken seriously.
Yes.
It's nothing, like I said, it's not playtime. It's something that you need to
But we do
commit
have fun though,
yourself.
right, Paul?
It is a
We do.
playtime, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like it's a very intimate
Mhm.
relationship with self,
Yes.
and you should
Yes.
take it seriously. And it shouldn't be taken as a recreational experience.
Yeah,
You
I
go with a
can't
purpose.
imagine someone doing it for recreation.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, I'll do
But
that
you
every
know what?
week. I'm like,
What a
come
joyride.
on.
It's like you're
Right?
puking, you're going through your traumas. Like that's not
Yeah.
really, but all right, whatever you.
Yeah. To those, I don't know. For each of their own. um,
What do you think was the most powerful outcome for you, or part of the process for you, coming out of that retreat specifically?
um, I realized my power. I realized some of I wouldn't say weaknesses, but some of my fears. Uh, when I walked out, when I walked away from the retreat that weekend, I I still today couldn't tell you what I was afraid of, but I could tell you I've lost some fear of things that just don't bother me anymore.
Mm.
You know, I I was hanging on. I had these crutches in my life that kind of just, I don't know, it made me more successful. It made me not want to give up on things. Um, and there's yeah, it's I don't know. It was eye opening. I did have some experiences, and I tell some people this. I did experience some past life experiences, um, from the Middle East, um, during biblical times. I even caught myself during ceremony, getting up and kneeling and chanting, which I was assuming was in um, was Islam, or was it,
In
what language
Arabic?
is that? Yeah, Arabic, because I was speaking in tongues. I wish somebody recorded it, but I was speaking in another language. And I also experienced some extraterrestrial stuff. I was aboard a
That's common in
spaceship.
our work. Yeah.
Yeah, I was aboard a spaceship. And when I opened up and I very rarely opened up my eyes during the experience, but when I did in that room was the spacecraft.
Mhm.
And yeah, so, and I think I was asking for that too beforehand to go, I want
Yeah,
to
you
go
like
to
that.
space.
Well, also you choose to work with the maestra, and she works a lot with ET energy, and the idea that it is just, entities and beings, that which we also are, as a
Yeah.
facet of what we are as well, that have access to some type of information, insight, or energy that can expand our perspective, right? So she works a lot with that. And it's fascinating that sometimes, or actually often, we'll have an experience where everyone in the entire ceremony will see the same spaceship. It's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm
Amazing.
glad you had that experience, because I know you like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. Um, let's see. What haven't we
I'm
talked
really
about?
grateful. Thank you for sharing that with me. I really appreciate that
You're
you've been
very
able to feel
welcome.
more
You're very
empowered and
welcome.
free. That's good.
Yeah. Let's
Awesome.
see. Where did man,
I don't
we
know
could
what our
we could go
timestamp
on
is. Do you have
forever
any
on
other
this.
burning questions?
Let's see. Oh, and before I stop the thing, I want you to hold on to hang in on the meeting thing afterwards, after I hit
Mhm.
um, the broadcast and stuff. So,
Of course.
um,
And miss out on a chance to continue to hang no way.
yeah, yeah. Um, how 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 often? Now, I've known talked to other people and their experiences and their retreats, and you've got the old traditional type where you go out in the middle of the woods and or the jungle and you have the fire and the mud and stuff. This was different. I mean, this was comfortable, with a roof over your head. How often do you do those ceremonies out in the jungle and
Um,
wild?
when they're asked for, honestly. It's all very guided by spirit. It's not exactly I don't want to say highly organized. It's highly orchestrated and organized,
Yeah,
but our programs are. I'm good. I do help others also host retreat programs. Like I know how to put together a program, but as far as the ceremony retreats, it is when they're called for. When we have a group that wants to get together. But it's true. I have done the sleeping in the mud on the altar in the fire, and I have also done them a little bit more nice in our Mexico Center. It was very luxurious actually before we moved out of that one, and the idea was that comfort of body is relaxed mind, and a lot of ayahuasca experiences are about connecting with the natural world, Pachamama, Mother Earth.
mm,
But we've discovered that with the work that we do, I'd rather you listen to your soul than listen to the grass grow. So because we do an inward journey anyway, close your eyes, doesn't matter if you're inside or outside. And in fact, all the better that you're inside because you feel a little bit more wrapped in a cocoon of safety. So it
yeah,
allows for the mind and body to relax deeper, and that deeper relaxation gives a much richer experience and a much more whole experience rather than open your eyes and looking around because you heard it something in the woods and maybe it was a bug. I don't know. And what's on my leg? And,
yeah,
why is it raining again? And who's manning the fire? And why is it cold? And all of that's very beautiful experience. Also, I also really enjoy that, but I'm also really enjoy these really nice, like cozy, a little bit more modern world experiences because I feel like they give us a better frame, a better context for us to look within more deeply rather than
yeah,
without.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So
Um,
if you want to know more about we're doing another program, you can reach me on the website. I think we're changing all of that here soon, but you can always just reach me. It's cat-rambo.com. That's easy. CAT-Rambo, like the stolen movie.com. And so I have like a little contact form. You send me a message there. All my social media is all connected to there. It all just says Cat Rambo Medicine Woman. So it's
oh, okay.
Facebook, YouTube,
All right.
TikTok, all that
And
stuff. Just Cat
yeah, we'll
Rambo
have
Medicine
all
Woman.
and that brings me to the
Yep.
question. Anybody who wants to reach out to you and is interested, wants more information um, on your work and retreats, when's the next retreat going to happen, stuff, they can find you on the website, and we'll have every one-stop shop. Just go to the Conscious Radio Network website. Boom, all
Perfect.
the information is there.
Love it.
Um,
Yeah.
it'll also be on all post-production stuff and whatnot. Um, what is the website? Let's see, because
So I
you got
would
one eternal.
eternallovinginnocence.com, though admittedly that is not only lengthy but hard to spell.
Yes.
So we're going to be redoing that. So if you just find my website, I can always just send a link to whatever, because that has all the copy as far as um, protocols and how the retreats are like and what we do and what's the point. And you can see a lot more there about why our work is different and why working with a maestra rather than a shaman is so different, because we don't just give you an experience. We want to teach you how to be your own inner healer. We
Yeah.
want to teach you how to empower yourself. And it's not really a good repeat business model because we don't need our participants to come back. They learn how to heal themselves, and that's an amazing thing. But it's not really good for repeat business.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it justifies the work that we do as teachers rather than just as healers. So you'll see a little bit more about that, and the programs we'll be offering soon related to teaching shamanic traditions, teaching. Most of our ceremonies are also teaching ceremonies. We'll teach you how to do some of these practices for yourself, and
Yeah.
how to take home those mindsets and tools which are invaluable in the growth process. So yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, if you look on my website, it's probably just as well. So eternallovinginnocence.com, or mine, cat-rambo.com. Keep it simple, right? Or if
Got
you do a web search, Cat Rambo Medicine Woman, I pop right up.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yay.
Cool. Can you imagine an hour goes by that quick?
Has it
Um,
really been a whole hour?
It's been an hour. Wow, it's probably been more than an hour. But when I first started, when I first started the Conscious Radio Network thing back in 2015, I had 4-hour shows. And
Goodness. Oh, we could totally do 4 hours, Paul.
right.
We basically did 3 days last
If I
time.
do, as soon as I start doing 4 hours, I'm gonna need corporate sponsors and then do commercial breaks.
You hear that, Cosmos?
Yes. If there are any corporate sponsors out there or prospectable corporate sponsors out there that want to sponsor the show and pay the bills, I would be happy to do 4 hours.
That'd be great. Hey, they'd be contributing to the betterment of a culture, expanding their wellness and their knowledge about themselves and others, and increasing our communication. And there can't be anything better, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, we are going to wrap up. We're going to wrap up this show. And for anybody who is interested, wants more information on Cat Rambo's retreats, you can reach her just go to the website. All the information will be at the end of this broadcast and on the website, consciousradionetwork.com. Other than that, thank you, Kat. It's been a wonderful, wonderful hour. And looking forward to having you back after the first book, as soon as that first book is published. Definitely want to have you on the show.
Reverend Dr. Paul Mekas and Conscious Radio Network. I have had such a good time being here, and I can't wait to see what else you guys end up doing.
Oh yeah, a lot.
Yes,
a lot more is in store. Thank you, Kat, for being on the show. You have a wonderful evening. God bless.
Thank you, sir.
And namaste. What's the word? Is there another word for blessings in other tribal nomenclature?
You could go on for 3 days with that. Maybe we'll do a unique program on the language of blessings, right?
Yes.
That'll be fun. I love you, Paul. Blessings, brother.
Thank you, my friend.